Welcome everyone to the maintenance webinar, Maximizing Profits Through Digital Reality Asset Management. We will be beginning the presentation very shortly, but beforehand I would like to welcome you all in the name of the NVDO, the Dutch Maintenance Organization. We are very pleased to have you here, and we hope that you will join us in the future for any other international events and maintenance webinars we will host. Some household announcements beforehand. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to use the chat function. In some cases, we might come back to your question in the chat, and otherwise we will keep them to the end before we have a little bit of time to answer some questions. And the gents can do that so by putting on their microphone and answering them for you. But please feel free to use the chat function in the meantime. As I just mentioned, the webinar will be recorded, and we will describe it in a short one-page and highlight note, and you will be sent those very shortly after. So maybe even today or tomorrow you will receive them for us. And more than all, NVDO and Hexagon, of course, wish you a captivating and instructive afternoon. So please welcome Bert Verplanken, who will start us off and introduce Hexagon some more. Bert, the word is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Many thanks all, and greetings to you all from Amsterdam office from Hexagon. And actually it's Hoofddorp, but well, we call it Amsterdam. And I will be happy to do some introduction, on who is Hexagon. So Hexagon is a Swedish company. We are actually based in Stockholm, listed on the Stockholm Nasdaq stock exchange, and we are a technology solution provider. So not per se I would say IT company, but we develop also smart sensors, hardware, and software, and all kinds of things. Typically, in the segment we are going to discuss this afternoon. So that's also where globally we have 22,000 employees in 60 countries, and all over the world, I would say. Where the enterprise asset management application we're going to discuss later this afternoon is part of, and we have quite a interesting research and development budget with a lot of R&D people developing all those solutions and smart sensoring and all kinds of things we're going to show you. And we are quite a financial strength company, 3.8 billion euro in revenue is what we do, and a nice operating margin. So we're doing actually quite well as Hexagon. And the EAM, the asset management application management system, is part of Hexagon now since roughly 1.5 years. And I will show you our heritage in the next slide. And this is what we have today with EAM. We are actually delivering the product all over the world, in New Zealand, Australia, in Chile, Latin America, North America, Alaska, and all the way to Japan and China and everything in between. So we have roughly more than 6,000 logos using EAM every day. We are one of the leaders, in this segment on a global basis. And well, many companies are selecting our product because of our technology stack and of course of other values like reduce of operations and energy savings and higher uptime availability of the assets and so on and so on. So this is actually a heritage slide where we come from. So we were originally born, so to say, in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, based in 1986 with a company called HxGN Systems. The product was called Rapier 3 and 4. And I stepped in myself in 1988 roughly with this product as a sales director, which I'm still am. And then we were actually acquired by a company called DataStream in 1996 from the United States, from South Carolina. And then in 2006 we were acquired by Infor, and we have been Infor until roughly 1.5 years ago, where it's now called Hexagon. So you see on the product quite some developments from 1986, where it was Oracle front end and Oracle back end, Oracle Forms, so to say, to the modern system will show you today, which is fully HTML5. It's totally user independent on the browser, and you can use it on Android and in Apple and Microsoft, and all have the different browsers. I mean, we always say just connect to the Wi-Fi or to the internet, and we do the rest. Our application is also a cloud off-the-shelf solution where we have our cloud, our true SaaS proposals and solution already on the market since 2003. So we have now for 20 years HxGN EAM in true SaaS with a average year-over-year uptime availability of 99.97%, which is a full OPEX proposal. That's where we are today. The industrial researchers like Gartner Group are doing almost annually research on asset management applications, and you see here an example of 2019 when we were still called Info EAM, and we are in the leaders quadrant, which is actually based on are you able to execute? That means do you have can you sell the product? Well, yes, we have more than 6,000-7,000 users, customers, logos worldwide, and do you have some vision in your application? And that's really what this Magic Quadrant is showing. And one from last year was Verdantix's report, and there it was already changed to HxGN EAM, as you see, and we're also again high up in the leaders quadrant with HxGN EAM versus all the other vendors globally. So we're doing extremely well, in this segment already for 35 years. And a lot of trends in the last years, last 10 years. I think the trend is really, to move from preventive maintenance into predictive maintenance, where roughly 30 years ago it was more how can you go from breakdown maintenance into preventive maintenance, and of course do not do too much preventive maintenance because that's too expensive. But nowadays we are speaking about maintenance 4.0 and that predictive stuff and all kinds of things, and that's what we call asset performance management. And our whole session this afternoon for the next 50 minutes is based on but if you want to use our EAM system as an asset performance management system, that means the system will explain to you should you really continue doing maintenance on that asset or stop it and replace it probably by another new asset which has a better performance and it's more sustainable and maybe cheaper and warranty and all that kind of thing. Well, that's what our system is advising you, and that's what we call asset performance management. The only thing is that this can only work when you have reliable data. We always say garbage in is garbage out. So if your data is not fully correct and fully up to date, then it will be very difficult for the managers, to make decisions on what do we do with the asset. That's all about where we want to speak with you this afternoon. So, and that's exactly where HxGN comes in, because HxGN is a real market leader, and in that sense we're also unique from the other EAM vendors you saw in the Gartner list, is that we have now a full application, full solution we can propose where we are capturing the data from the real world, digitalize the data and bring it into the EAM system, and that's what we call the digital twin. And actually, that's what we do. So we design our own smart sensoring, and we have our own geographical systems, and we develop our own mobile solutions, and so on and so on and so on. And the reason is that, well, the better the quality of the data, the better you can make a decision on what do you want to do with that asset life cycle in the end, and well, this is the value why we do it. Yeah. So when you have the data finally in your EAM system, then you can call it digital twin. And the reason why we're doing that for the customers is because you can reduce the risk and have faster and better decision making, and you do it more efficient because you have less internal travel to do and better performance and so on and so on. And that's all about the session this afternoon. And again, I would say it's now time for Hans Liebrand from our Leica Geosystems division from Hexagon to show you how you can capture that data from the field. Hans, I think the word is now up to you. I'm going to stop the sharing. Yeah.
Thank you, Bert. I will share my screen as well, and I will start the PowerPoint. Hello, my name is Hans Liebrand, Business Development Reality Capture at Hexagon Geosystems, and I will show you a small presentation about integrating digital reality in Hexagon EAM for operation and predictive maintenance. Reality capture. Capture reality. Capturing the real world. Digitizing the real world. After you have captured reality and the reality is in your display, it is digital reality, the digital twin. I will show you everything about reality capture, capturing the real world, digitizing the real world, and my colleague Thijs Kleingeld will show all about delivery of the captured reality in Hexagon EAM. Reality capture. The traditional way of reality capture, the traditional way of digitizing the real world by a tape measure or a level or a small disto, is the old-fashioned way. It's time-consuming, and always the question is it 100% complete after leaving the job? So reality capture 20 years ago, it has certain challenges. As you can see here, it's the old scanner 20 years ago, big battery, the laptop is on the battery, and on the right you see a big scanner. The investment was high, data processing was very critical because you had older laptops which weren't able to process all the data. It was really complex and the usability was rather difficult. Today we have smaller, quicker, nicer and better solutions to digitize the real world. Today it's more efficient, the data processing is more easy, it's more autonomous and higher accuracy. How easy is it to digitize the real world? On the left you see the BLK2Fly, world's first flying laser scanner, aerial reality capture. Easy to scan a facade of a building or the roof of a building. On the right you see the mobile reality capture solution, the BLK2Go from Hexagon Geosystems. It's an easy handheld mobile 3D laser scanner. You walk around on the scene, you walk around on the job, and you scan everything which you come across. You can make a picture from the asset you want to have highlighted, and it will be pinned in 3D space automatically. Next to that we have the autonomous reality capture solution, which is the BLK Arc. The BLK Arc is a 3D laser scanner which fits on every robot. Very easy to use. In this matter you see it pinned on a Boston Dynamics spot. It can be used static but also mobile. Here you see a small point cloud from the BLK Arc. On the right you see the static reality capture solution, the BLK360, which is a very small and nice 3D laser scanner. Very quickly it scans at 680,000 points per second. It has also the highest accuracy of these four solutions. After digitizing the real world, you have digital reality. This is a technical room scanned with Leica 3D laser scanners, and as you can see, you can fly through. Here you see all the small balloons which are geotagged, captured on the location. You can measure in the point cloud easily. Every pixel that you see in the screen is measurable. The geotag high quality pictures pinned on the 3D location in the virtual world. Fly-through, measurable, digital reality, all the geotags on the location where you captured it in the field, a digital realization of the real world. Okay, what about the future? The future will bring flying laser scanners, Boston Dynamics spots or robots with BLK arc on top, digitizing the plant autonomously, automatically scanning all assets, and all information is gathered. Adding sensors will make it possible to pinpoint, like here, that a pump is not functioning correctly. A heat sensor will tell you that the heat of the pump is too high and has to be replaced. Predictive asset management. The future is today. Here you see a small movie of Grace Duren, a chemical plant where they use already robots in place.
Grace Duren is producing 24 hours, 7 days a week. So we try to maintain our machines, our engines and everything around it the best way we can. We try to have a preventive maintenance, and for that we have to monitor all the temperatures and the frequencies of the motors, the sound. We can generate a trend about the temperatures and see upcoming problems before they happen.
We are operating 2 glass furnaces. It's a dusty atmosphere. With all that combined in hot weather, it's always a challenge to work under the roof and doing the inspection on the quality that we require in order to have reliable data, and it is more applicable as the robot always does what is asked of him. The primary idea was to implement it on the water glass, which is behind us, where we have very harsh conditions for employees. For that, we installed maintenance roads that typically an employee was walking. That has been automated ever since we've implemented AnimalD here on site. What we also noticed is that the animal is giving us results that we did not expect, that we had not on our radar. And from there, we can continuously improve the operations of the plant. What really impressed me is the feasibility of it, as it is fairly simple to implement it and have fast results with the robot.
I think the benefits in the future will be huge, because having a fully automatic robot running around in a facility like this here is awesome, because we can do the inspections at night and with less people around, so we can do it all around the clock.
It has a huge impact, as it makes the unpredicted or unnoticed maintenance failures to predictable. And with predictable maintenance activities, you can increase production volume and you can prepare a maintenance task better and more suitable for the business. And by that, you increase revenue and you decrease costs.
Two worlds, one reality, the smart digital reality. The data collection outside in the field, the data transfer, and the next step is the digital representation, which is also real time. We have data feedback. Based on the feedback, we can build, corrective action, maintenance, redesign. After this, we do the data collection again, data transfer again digital representation, data feedback. It's an ongoing process, on and on and on, and it's real time. Okay, conclusions. The advantages of for Hexagon EAM users adopting reality capture: the assets will be found much more quicker. Assets are tagged in the 3D space. Update latest real world situation is almost real time, so it's quicker. The planning is better. Maintenance engineer can view asset virtual and measure what you see. Lower cost using digital reality. BIM model not always needed. No need for 2D floor plan or 3D model when using a digital twin, so a cost reduction. Okay, I hope I explained a little bit how reality capture works. Now Thijs Kleingeld will show you how to use the digital reality in Hexagon EAM.
Thank you, Hans. So, thank you for this wonderful stuff. So my name is Thijs Kleingeld. I am a solution consultant at Hexagon EAM for the past 11 years. And let's pick up where Hans handed it over to me. Hans clearly showed and demonstrated to you how we can capture the real world and digitize it, processing the data, managing the data. In this part of the session, we're going to focus on how can we use this digitized data, the 3D visualization, how can we use it in Hexagon EAM? And the good news here is that we really don't need to start from scratch to onboard this latest technology that's based on point cloud, the 3D visualization, the scans. Because we always had the OpenCAD platform inside EAM for 2D CAD visualization, for BIM visualization, which of course is there. And the third one that we're adding next to it is this 3D visualization based on point cloud 3D scanning. And what's important to mention here, this is really important, so please remember this, is you might already have 2D drawings or maybe even a BIM model, but it might be outdated, for example, not up to date. It doesn't contain the latest changes that you have. So by adding this new possibility of 3D visualization based on scanning, it's easier. You don't need to really invest time and money, to change 2D drawings, to change BIM models. With the 3D scanning, it's easier, in fact, to apply changes to your current installations. Or if you have a brand new plant, for example, Hans clearly demonstrated it. It's a matter of walking around or flying above it, scan it, and in pretty quickly you have your model. Where BIM typically has its own rights, of course, we will see that for sure, but takes a bit more time, to configure. But the real strength here is the combination of those three within Hexagon EAM, and I'm going to show you that. So before we go into the details of the visualization in Hexagon EAM, I think it is important because it places the whole visualization in context. So why is it important? And why does it contribute to smart digital reality? So if you look at Hexagon Asset Lifecycle Intelligence, that's who we are with EAM. Hexagon has solutions really to plan, design, and execute, for example, plans or structures. While we are acting as Hexagon EAM, it fits into the maintain section. Really important here is that it is backed up by what we call the digital backbone. So indeed, the reality capture, like Hans showed you already, and the visualization in EAM, which we will see in a second. So these are not goals in itself. These are tools. These are means within the whole digital backbone, just like, for example, mobile applications are. Just for example, with IoT sensors, these are all enablers, tools to realize true asset performance management, asset lifecycle management as well. So again, we have a couple of flavors here. That's BIM, CAD, and TrueView, again, as part of Hexagon EAM that contributes to the whole asset management, the management of your asset, your processes, asset performance management, etc. This is my last slide before we go into the actual visualization, but I think this is also really important because, again, why is it important and where is it sitting inside the whole smart digital reality approach? So we are really looking at asset management in a holistic way. That means it is a combination of different factors based on the ISO 55000 approach. So it's about work, of course, work planning, work execution, the stuff that you do every single day. But it's also about asset performance management and the smart digital reality. And to really close the loop, to have this holistic approach, you need all three of these. If one of these are not there, the loop is not closed. So again, visualization, using CAD, using BIM, using the latest TrueView, which I'm going to show you now. It's really important to contribute to this holistic, real end-to-end asset management. All right, so let me introduce you to Nigel quickly. Today, he's our construction site and maintenance manager. He's not happy. He doesn't look happy. There's not a happy face to me. So he feels frustrated. He does not feel rewarded, not motivated. Why? He has a lot of issues, and we're not going through all of these issues. But one of his major issues that he has at this moment is he gets complaints. And he also has this complaint himself. The inspectors complain about the lack of visibility and visualization. They're using paper, they are staring into the blind, and they really wonder, please help us, dear Nigel. We need to go to the next step. And the good thing is there is a solution, and that is OpenCAD TrueView. That's one of them. So what happens here, and I have a nice demonstration video in a second for you, is what happens is we really incorporate the 3D visualization, the BIM model, the OpenCAD model. It is embedded inside EAM, and in that way it becomes in context. It becomes linked to equipment. It becomes meaningful for you, for your maintenance operation. So then you get something like this. And there's a video, I will just start it because I think it's much easier to explain it by running the video for you. So like Hans demonstrated, when the scanner has done its magic and the data is processed, you will get these kind of 3D models. But these are typically outside of a EAM. So the screen that we're now looking at is, for example, the Leica TrueView. Powerful, and you can really go deep into this model, but it's not linked to EAM. It is more or less isolated from a maintenance point of view. But I showed you this slide, we want to embed it, and that's what we did. So we are now looking at the EAM screen. If you're using it, you're familiar with it. So here, based on your role and permission, you can view using the TrueView dashboard, that is a new screen in EAM, you can view this 3D model, the visualization, directly from EAM. And what is really useful here is, because we are working with this geotags, Hans explained that as well. Based on this geotags that are part of the whole capturing process, we can create the objects, the asset. And what's really useful, you can view the whole model. You can zoom into assets, and you can decide here, which one do I want to include in EAM? For which ones do I want a asset created? So for now, I want everything, including those fire extinguishers. So you create the object, you you fill in a couple of mandatory fields there, like the organization and, for example, the status. These are all installed because it's a new plant. They are there. I just hit the button and the system will create these assets for you. And important, linked with a geotag ID. Having these, I can really quickly navigate through the TrueView model using these tags. So for example, this pump, I select it from the list below. I select the pump immediately. The pump is visualized here, and also the pump that is sitting next to it. And what's really cool here, you can do those measurements. Why would I want to know the distance between these two pumps? Well, if I need a forklift, for example, I need to know if it fits in there. If it's too big, it's useless for me. So really also from a work preparation point of view, really important. You can change your visualization. So this is like a heat map or reflection model or a grayscale, depending on your preference, how to view these kind of models. And again, it's razor sharp. Select your object in the list and you're good to go. And this is important. From that dashboard, you can drill down immediately into the asset record, into the equipment record. So it's fully integrated where you have all the details of your asset. Also from here, I can navigate to the one TrueView. And now it becomes really important because here we can have this dual screen, the split screen with on the left, I have my BIM model. On the right, I have my 3D TrueView scan. And they are interactive. They are, they react on each other. So if I select a pump on the BIM model, immediately the correct pump is displayed on the 3D visualization on the right. So from here, for example, the BIM part on the left, I can easily create a snapshot. Now, why is that important? I can add notes, for example, here for my technician who needs to do the maintenance job later on. I can include it also on the work order. So if the technician later on is going to this pump and do the maintenance job, he has this note, he has all the information he needs available on his mobile device there. So coming back to the one TrueView there. So again, the splitted screen is really are interactive and linked to each other. So for example, I have this pump here, both in my BIM view and in my TrueView view. From here, I can easily, from the BIM model, for example, please display me, show me all the work orders in a certain status, or I can filter, for example, just on text. Show me all work orders that contain the word leak, for example. Really powerful there. So once we have these work orders, where's the equipment linked to that work order? So it immediately lights up in green. We can even activate here the blinking mode. So if you're not familiar with the large structure, where is this pump sitting? It will draw your attention immediately, and on the right part of the screen also it's located there. I can select a tank, for example, from the TrueView. It is also immediately displayed then on the BIM, where I can see all the valves, all the piping. The whole structure is completely visible. Really, really powerful. I literally see the whole structure while I'm even not on the site. I'm maybe at the desk at the other side of the world, and I can already see it. I can take measurements from the 3D visualization as well between those tanks, if I need a crane, for example. And again, also from the TrueView, you can add those snapshots. So with a little note, dear technician, make sure the distance between those tanks is 2 meters. You have very little space with the crane. And that appears as a document that he can use. So again, extremely powerful, and it really adds, this true visualization, and more important, linked to the assets. So having said that, so again, 3D and BIM are still there. They're still there in EAM, of course, available. And I know that a lot of you probably have 2D drawings, maybe even some have already 3D BIM models there as well. These are still available for sure. So what happens there is it's a similar approach. So you have on one side, you have your open cut. So I'm at the building, for example, in this example, I have a parking garage. So on the right part of the screen, for example, I have this parking garage in 2D cut. On the left, I have my BIM model. And again, these are interactive. So if I select an equipment in my BIM model, it will immediately show up also on the right part of the screen in my 2D drawing. And this is powerful because sometimes these structures can be really complex. And some people also have simple personal preferences, how to start from the BIM model or from the OpenCAD drawing. So here again, you can literally remove the walls, zoom into the structure, select this technical room, for example, at the roof of the parking garage. It's immediately displayed on your CAD drawing as well. And which is really cool now, it's on the BIM model, we can do what we call sectioning. Think about having a huge knife in your hand and you just cut through the building horizontally for even further and more detailed understanding of the building, of the structure, of the relationship between different equipment between within your building. So again, it's not only about really visualizing, that's nice, but it needs to be linked and it needs to be in context with your equipment. And it gets even nicer if you ask me. So we are planning to do it for this year. It's subject, of course, to when it's finalized. We don't have a definite date yet, but this is really planned for this year. Having the 2D drawing and the 3D BIM visualization on the mobile device, on the digital work application. How powerful is that? That when I'm in, for example, this parking garage, and I want to know what is behind the wall, I can literally, virtually, remove the walls. And I can really look behind the walls, behind the ceiling. What is there? What pipe work is there? What electrical installations are there? So it's really even more powerful if you ask me, if we give this into the hands of the technicians out in the field, and that's exactly what we're planning to do. So if we go back to Nigel, our construction site and maintenance manager for today, so he feels happy again. This face is still a bit sad, but he really feels more happy, rewarded, and he's in control. Why? Because you gain true visibility through OpenCAD, through BIM, and through the TrueView visualization. And I'm repeating the slide that Bert used at the beginning. I think it's a nice one to summarize what we saw today. So we saw Hans showing how we can come to these kind of visualization using, the most sophisticated scanners that are actually out there. Put it on the drone, put it on a car, put it on an airplane or on this robot dog to really capture and digitize this data. We've seen also, the combination with OpenCAD, the combination with BIM, which is extremely powerful. And why is this all important? What is the value behind this? So the value here is, again, higher levels of visibility and safety. Don't forget about safety. It becomes truly visible also from a preparation point of view, important there. Reducing risk, it's related to safety. It's also about faster and better decision making because I literally have all the information there in a visual way. And we all know that's nothing new, that what people work best with and what is most effective is not written data. It is pictures and visualized data. So think about the limit trip to site. From the other side of the world, I can truly walk around within a facility, within a manufacturing plant, without even being there. So this is extremely powerful. All right, this is my last slide for today. We have baked in time for questions. So I will stop sharing my screen and let's open up for for any questions that are there for you to be answered.
Hi, I have a question. My name's Lisa Heisman. I work for Hexagon. Can this be implemented into, say, corporate buildings for, say, facility management companies that want to manage their assets that could be elevators, lifts, escalators, assets within buildings? Is that something that could be done?
Yeah, it's a good question. So this is a very nice example. And if you look at those facility management-like requirements, yes, so we can completely, that goes for BIM, that goes for the 3D model with TrueView. We can visualize this whole building. That building will be visible, just like I demonstrated to you using the video, in EAM. And typically, especially I should say for facility management, it can be used. But again, we are equipment agnostic. It doesn't really matter what kind of equipment, what kind of buildings, or what kind of manufacturing plants.
So you could geotag those assets as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
You decide which correct me if I'm wrong, Hans, you decide which one you decide to geotag. Yeah.
And who does the scanning?
Correct. Yeah, you can geotag everything, every item you want. You can make a picture from it. You can make an audio recording from the asset you want to capture. You can make a video. It's all is possible, and it will hang on the asset when you are on location, stored to the asset, and it will be visualized in the TrueView environment, like Thijs was showing. So that's the good thing. You have on site, you have additional high quality pictures. It will hang on the exact location of the asset, and it can be opened afterwards on the intranet or even on Hexagon EAM. Yes.
Excellent. And then lastly, occupancy sensors. So things like for HVAC, lighting, alarms, energy management in these kinds of buildings. Is there a way of managing that? Can the system look at if a floor's not being occupied, it can turn off the heating, it can manage the lighting on that floor as well?
So you're now more looking into the smart buildings, if I translate it. So typically, what we could do is use, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hans. We've seen these nice laser scanners that can be mounted, for example, at the ceiling. And we also see that, for example, at airports, where, for example, luggage is left behind and that object is not moving for, let's say, 10 minutes. Just an example, then all alarm bells are starting to ring. So these kind of triggers can also be used to exactly, to connect it to a building information model and turn off lights, for example, if the room is not occupied for a certain while. And I think, Hans, you had a very nice example that you explained to me yesterday with the cleaning lady.
Yeah, exactly. If this was a company, but they create their own Internet of Things sensors, which are in a classroom, for example. So you have a bigger school. It's always a hassle to get all rooms filled with students on every day or not filled. And at the end, you have a scheme which classroom was filled that day. And if it was not filled with students that day at all, you do not need to clean it. So it will reduce cost in cleaning. So actually, yes, of course, a smart building, but as far as I know, Hexagon does not have their own Internet of Things or sensors to adapt this in smart building. But of course, our software is open to have these sensors connected to the software. So you have a live visibility of how to use it. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Jens, there's a question in the chat as well. Maybe Leo wants to open up his microphone and explain his question to everyone.
Hi everyone. Sorry guys.
Slight echo there.
Now you
Slide
go.
echo, yeah.
Hi. My name is Leo Koz. I work for a company called MBNL, based in UK. We are a joint venture between EEM3, managing the sites over all the UK infrastructure. So we are a fairly new team on asset management, and I just want to understand if you guys have the experience of managing so many. We have thousands of sites spread in the country, and there's so many different assets in terms of towers, cabins, cabinets, and how this can be monitored using the software.
Yeah, well, Hexagon has connections with telecom providers, yes. Also, for example, is there still room in the mast to have an extra antenna for 5G, for example? It's stuff you can scan as well, of course. And in terms of enterprise asset management, I think as well, if you can scan it, you can pinpoint it. And if you can pinpoint it, you can name it an asset, and you can do asset management. Isn't it right, Thijs?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat at your question, Leo. It's a great question there. It's so the second part, how those assets are monitored. Yeah, that depends. That's also what Hans explained. There are different options there. The monitoring can be done by using, for example, those laser scanning. The monitoring can be done by using IoT sensors that are spitting real-time or near real-time information to Hexagon EAM, where Hexagon EAM picks up that alert, for example, and take the action that is needed. It can be an escalation because it is a true breakdown that is going to happen, for example. But it can also be things like temperatures rising too high or vibrations and this monitoring of assets is extremely important if we talk about predictive maintenance, because we would love to know that it is going to break down. We don't want to wait before it actually fails, So if, for example, if you talk about temperature, if you talk about telecom, for example, in data centers or whatever, so we want to interfere and get to action based on this monitored data before the problem actually occurs and results in a final, lethal failure, if you know what I mean. So the answer is yes. We have 3,500 customers worldwide, and a lot of them are using either smart building solutions or sensors, to do the condition monitoring of assets. And of course, you could also do that, using our mobile application, where people are doing, preventive maintenance and collect data on the go on the assets using the mobile application.
Right.
And I see that Hans has commented on that as well. You can send him an email.
I'm with a big team here. Do you guys have any question going forward? I got a Hans email. I'll be contacting you, Hans, and to understand a little bit more. And then thank you for the presentation, guys.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments? Or
I was just trying to ask the same. Yes.
Yeah.
Feel free to put on the camera or microphone to answer some questions. We still have some time.
Yeah, and if not, we will give you back some time, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
A cup of coffee or tea, Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't see any questions anymore in the chat. Don't see anyone sticking up their hand or putting on their camera. So I would say if you're sharing your screen, Bert, I see. Yeah, there we go. Thank you all for coming to this presentation. Thanks once again to the gents from Hexagon for explaining everything in this past hour. And as I said before, you will all receive the link to the webinar in the YouTube channel so that you can watch it back on your own pace once more. Once again, thank you all. We look forward to meeting you next time for any of our other international events. Do as well check out the website for Euro Maintenance, which is in a month in the Netherlands. Might be interesting for you. And once again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, gents, for presenting. And then I would wish you all a very pleasant afternoon.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
And for the Euro maintenance, we have a big booth also with Leica, with Hans, and we do presentations. So
Perfect.
yeah, no problem.
See each other there.
Yes. Okie-do. Have a nice afternoon.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
afternoon, everyone.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.